The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. We're also brought to you by our NBA Playoff Survivor Challenge. We're giving away $250 in cash and a $100 gift card to the SGPN store. Sign up exclusively on the SGPN app. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, April 11th, currently 11:05 on the East Coast, here to handicap the two play-in tournament games we have going on in the association tonight. Got the Atlanta Hawks visiting the Miami Heat and the Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Los Angeles Lakers, and helping me to break it all down here for today's episode. You guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, the WNBA Gambling Podcast, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man?
And nothing much. Looking forward to the official start of postseason basketball today. Not officially playoff basketball, but postseason basketball. And hopefully we got a couple good games tonight. I'm not sure if we're going to. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah, definitely a nice, I don't want to say surprise because we saw it coming, but it's a nice result to finally get through the grueling regular season because, you know, you're tired of seeing which players are going to sit out randomly at the last minute, which player props you have to deep dive and try to find replacements for. We should have, for the most part, fully healthy teams, or at least fully operational teams. Not so much with Minnesota. We'll talk about that for different reasons, but still should be a pretty fun next couple months. So looking forward to it.
Yep, 100%. And also joining us here, of course, on the Tuesday episodes, you guys know him as the man. It's Delonte Smith. Delonte, I see you are already in playoff mode, my man. Playoff Delonte is here.
Yeah, man, I'm in playoff mode, ready to go. Officially not playoffs yet, but somewhat, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it. But yeah, looking forward to these two games. Like Scott said, hopefully they'll be worth our while. But if not, still can make some money off of it. So that's the beauty of gambling.
Yeah, we got the two play-in tournaments, like we said, and like Scott alluded to. I think 98% of these teams are at full strength. I know we'll talk about Minnesota and the guys that they will be missing and how it's going to affect them on the floor when we get to the Lakers game. But yeah, man, it was a grueling regular season. Kind of, I think the most adventurous part, I think all of us could probably agree, was just going through the injury reports every single day. But you know, now we're down to what, this 8 to 20 teams. Is that right? Yeah, with
16.
Well,
16,
16, yeah,
that's right.
yeah, sorry, 16, and then the two extra teams. So for the play-in tournaments at least. So, you know, by the time Saturday comes around, we'll know who the matchups are. And then as of tonight, we'll know who the number 2 seeds in each conference are playing here tonight. So definitely looking forward to the playoffs, guys. So, I mean, do you guys have anything to add or want to mention before we get into the games here for tonight, Delonte? Anything?
Nah, man, I don't.
Scott, do you have anything?
Despite everything that's already happened with Minnesota over the past, few days with the Gobert incident and with McDaniels punching a wall, they really have the nerve to list Karl Anthony Towns questionable in a postseason game. Really?
I saw that yesterday. I think it was like last night where they listed him as questionable with the calf injury. But I mean, I think we're gonna go ahead and make the assumption that he is gonna be playing here tonight. But yeah, before we dive into the two games here for tonight, guys, let me tell everyone about Shady Rays. Kick off the new year with new gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered from the sun to the slopes, with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair that we've ever worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by the lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. With Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good. To date, they have donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. If you don't love them, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving away the best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. And also, we have a contest for the NBA playoffs. It's completely free to enter. It's an NBA Playoff Survivor Challenge. The winner gets $250 in cash and a $100 SGPN gift card. Exclusively, it's free to enter, but only on the SGPN app. All right, guys, let's get into the 2 games here for tonight. The first game on the board, it is going to be the Eastern Conference matchup, excuse me, between the 7th and 8th seeds, the Atlanta Hawks. They are going to be visiting the Miami Heat down in South Beach. Currently, the line is sitting at -5 in favor of the Miami Heat. Total is currently sitting at 228. Nothing really significant on the injury report. Let me just kind of quickly go through it if there is anything. For the Miami Heat, Kyle Lowry is actually questionable here tonight. He has left knee soreness. Max Strus is probable, and we know Nikola Jovic is out. For the Atlanta Hawks, pretty clean injury report. Everybody is a go in this game. Scott, lead us off here with the Miami Heat laying 5 points, hosting the Atlanta Hawks.
So the problem in this game is the fact that Miami's laying points at home, but Atlanta's getting points on the road, and Atlanta's not good on the road. So you got to pick something, or potentially it lands 5 and nobody wins. But I think for this one, I'm going to lean to Miami. I don't feel great about it, but at least Miami, when they tried against Philadelphia earlier last week, which you can argue Philly no-showed the game because they beat Boston. I get all that. At least Miami's shown me something. Atlanta, I just cannot get behind. Trae Young was not very good down the stretch of the season. He had a couple of decent games towards the end of the season, but for the most part, he left a lot to be desired in a decent amount of those games. But it's mostly just the fact that the Heat kind of own this team, and they have for a while. They went 3-1 in the head-to-head this past year, and even going back to the playoffs last year, they destroyed Atlanta. You can really go back a while. Miami's had a lot of success against this team, and you're looking at what the Hawks are going to try to do to really limit Miami. Do they have a guy that can actually match up well defensively against Jimmy Butler? Probably not. But you look at what the Heat have done so successfully when they play against Atlanta, they constantly shut down Trae Young. They're able to force him into making a bunch of mistakes. The turnovers for Trae are usually really, really just painful to look at if you're an unbiased fan looking at the actual box score, because he might have 6 turnovers in this game. He tends to struggle with actual assists in this game, so there's no guarantee he'll get a double-double. But we know Atlanta defensively has not been a good unit all season long. And with Jimmy Butler in playoff mode, with Adebayo still being a solid center, and with a pretty decent supporting cast, and at least I'd put it this way, I think Miami's depth is better than Atlanta's depth, and I don't think it's that close. I'm going to lean to the Heat here at home. I'm hoping the home crowd in a playoff game will give them a nice little boost that they need. But it's mostly the fact that I think the Heat at least have a different gear to them, which separates them in playoff basketball from the Hawks. I don't think the Hawks have really any type of different gear. I think this is who they are. They need to outscore you. They're not going to really get many stops. I'm going to lean Miami at home because historically speaking, they have done very, very well against this Hawks team, and it's mostly because of their great defense against Trae Young.
Delonte, what do you got for this game?
Yeah, I'm probably going to lean to Atlanta, but like Scott said, it's kind of pick your poison. Atlanta is 18-24 ATS on the road. Miami is 14-25-2 ATS at home. They struggle as favorites, 20-36-3 as a favorite. It pretty much just boils down to like what can DeJounte give you, because it's pretty well known that Trey struggles against Miami. I think he only averaged 15 in a 15 per game in the playoff series, and like Spoelstra has a knack for just shutting him down. So what can DeJounte Murray give you? Can he, take care of the ball and do some scoring for you? That's really what I'm banking on. That, and I mean, they have to push the tempo. They can't get into a half court thing with Miami. They'll get beat up. They're top 15 in points per possession in transitions, and they thrive off steals. The top 10 in points per possession off steals. Miami is, a slower pace team. They want to slow it down. But I mean, just the recent history would just, sway you to Miami. So I don't fault anybody for going with Miami. Each team covered twice. I know one of us was on the good end of that DeJounte Murray shot. Was it you, Scott?
I'm trying to think.
You remember it was like
the one he hit at the last second.
The Heat were up 4, I think, and DeJounte Murray hit like a 3-quarter shot to put it on 1.
I was gonna say that I don't think that was. That might have been Terrell. I don't think that was me.
Yeah, but so I mean they were that close to covering 3 out of 4 against him. So, and it was pretty much at full strength. I think on 3-6, Love and Lowry didn't play. Lowry didn't play on 3-4 or 116, and then early in the season, Jimmy, Capella, and Bogdan didn't play. But I think Atlanta they just have to get out and score. I think Capella and Onyeka have good days on the glass. They just got to match that pace. They got to turn up the pace for them. And I don't love it, as you can tell, but I'm gonna lean with with Atlanta plus the points.
Well, I do want to ask briefly, just in general, how much stock do you put into previous seasons of either playoff matchups or regular season head-to-head, even in this year? Do you think any of that actually matters? Because we know playoff basketball is a different animal, and based on Atlanta's new coaching staff with Quinn Snyder there, for example, instead of Nate McMillan, do you put any stock into the previous years of Miami just dominating Atlanta all the time?
Well, I really, like you said, it's a lot of change. I usually try to look at things from like if everything was the same. Obviously, everything wasn't the same in this matchup because Snyder wasn't the coach. But for all of those matchups, for 2 of the matchups, McMillan was still the coach.
Yeah,
so
that's why I'm asking, because I know that in most cases you try to look for matchups where the variables haven't exactly changed much throughout the entire season. But it's food for thought. I am kind of curious if you put any stock into it, because
just a little.
I kind of do a little bit, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I do a little bit more so just like how each player plays against that opposing defense. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, Spoelstra and the Heat's defense is not going to change. They have something that they do with Trey where he just can't shake them. But the difference is, like you were saying, the variables have changed. Now he has DeJounte who can handle the ball, who can score, so he doesn't have to have that full scoring load in the backcourt. And Kyle Lowry's a year older. Not going to be able to move around with either of those guys. He didn't play. He's the only person that didn't play. He didn't play in 3 of the 4 games this year. So, like you said, that's a little bit in it. I'm more so trying to look at what each player did. Like Bam dominated the matchup for no matter who was on the court, no matter who was the coach. He dominated the matchup. But yes, things like that I kind of take into a little bit of a consideration. But unless it's like apples to apples, I don't try to put too much in it.
What about you, Munaf? You put any stock into it?
I think for me, I wanted to ask you guys just kind of a follow-up question to what you said, is that now that they have Quinn Snyder on the sideline, does that change your opinion about kind of the coaching that's happened for the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs, in particular when they had maybe Lloyd Pierce or Nate McMillan on the sideline? Do you think Quinn Snyder's a better coach just because he has the experience? I know he hasn't gotten it done really with Utah in the playoffs, but does that sway you in one way or another that makes him better or worse for the Atlanta Hawks?
My answer is going to be no, because McMillan made it to an Eastern Conference Finals. You can argue that they were a bit fortunate that, the Sixers had a massive implosion. They blew a couple of double-digit leads. You had the Ben Simmons situation with that layup in Game 7. Like there were some other variables at play, but Atlanta still got the job done. it doesn't really play that much of a factor for me because what you just said the main point. What has Quinn Snyder ever won in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Does he have a good resume in the playoffs? Not really. So
No.
I don't think that really changes much.
Okay.
I'm leaning to Miami mostly because of the fact that I just feel like Miami throughout the entire regular season, it felt like they were going through the motions. It felt like they were kind of just like, oh, we've been here before. Who cares? Like, we'll figure it out. We'll get into the playoffs or the play-in. We'll flip a switch and we'll end up looking like the team we used to be.
Yeah.
Whether they do or not's a separate story, but it did feel like mentally Miami was kind of just waiting for the playoffs to start. I think this is who Atlanta is. I just think that they're a high-scoring, no defensive team that's going to pray that Trae Young gets back on track. And historically speaking, he has not gone on track against Miami in big games. So I'm leaning to Miami.
I think the one weakness of the Miami Heat's defense this year was actually their 3-point defense because they were the third worst team as far as makes allowed. So, I mean, I'm kind of looking at it from an X's and O standpoint, like you guys have been talking about some of the stats that I think that if the Atlanta Hawks are able to knock down their shots from 3-point line, I think that may just be a difference here of them covering the game or possibly even winning outright, right? But also on the flip side, you took Atlanta's defense points inside the paint; they were the second worst. So I think that kind of alludes to why I think Delonte mentioned that Bam Adebayo's had success against this Atlanta Hawks interior defense, even despite that them having Clint Capella, who's somewhat, I guess we say, of a rim protection and rebounder. John Collins, we know, doesn't play very much defense. I think I'm kind of looking at if the Hawks are able to knock down their 3-point shots here tonight, I think they definitely do have a chance to win this game outright. For Miami, like you mentioned, Scott, that, hey, we've been here how many years in a row? We made it to the NBA Finals during the bubble year. So, again, they have the experience. And, again, let's not forget that Miami, beat this Heat team Miami beat this Hawks team last year in the playoffs in 5 games.
They were Jimmy Butler transition 3 away from beating Boston.
Yeah. So I think that, when we talk about when we get to the playoffs or play in, I mean, it's pretty much a playoff game because you win and you get into the playoffs. You trust guys like Jimmy Butler more in those situations. And I think that experience as well, you trusted better. I again, like you guys said, I don't feel great about it either side. I'm gonna take the points with Atlanta, hoping that they have a good shooting night. But would I be surprised that the Miami Heat come into this game here tonight on their home floor and win by 10 points and just clamp down on Trae Young and DeJounte Murray? No, I won't be surprised. But I'll take the points here at +5. Let's get over to the total. That's currently sitting at 228. Delonte, what's your thoughts on the total here?
I think it's correlated. If you like Atlanta, you got to like the over. If you like the Heat, you got to like the under. I mean, simply because of pace. Hawks top 5 in pace. They're 4th, actually, and Miami is 29th in pace. So, I mean, honestly, it's weird because Miami is so slow and methodical, but their half-court offense is so trash. Like, I don't get how they have success, but whatever they do, I guess because Jimmy Butler just gets to the line and posts people up and scores whenever he wants at certain times. But yeah, I lean to the over. I think that Jimmy will get to the line, 13, 14 times. I think he's been to the line double-digit times in 2 of the last 3 games or 2 of the 3 games that he's played the Hawks this season. And I mean, Munaf, like we got to be on the Hawks making shots. They got to make shots if they're going to cover this number. Miami has been playing a little bit better offensively. Not much, but I mean, even Hero's struggling. So, I mean, maybe we get some offense going. I don't think the home court is. I don't think Miami has any home court at all. Like maybe a little, but I mean, what people are going to be coming from the beach at what? This is at 7.
It's at 7 Eastern.
Yeah, man, they just going to be coming from the beach.
7:30 Eastern.
Yeah, they won't get there until like halftime. So, I don't think home court plays a big part of it. I think both teams come out offensively and let it fly. So I like the over.
Scott, total?
I'm going to go with the under. I think it is correlated, as you said before, and I'm leaning to Miami, so I'm going to lean to the under. Besides the fact that Miami historically has been able to get Trae Young out of his comfort zone pretty easily, I believe last year all of the play-in games went under.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it could be a possibility.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure all the play-in games ended up going under last year. So As a result, I am going to go with the under. We always talk about playoff basketball, and it sounds cliched, but the main thing I'll point out is that it seems like every possession matters more. So you're not going to see a lot of really awful defensive possessions in transition. I think both teams will do a better job of at least maintaining focus and forcing the opponent to actually make some passes and to not give up any free opportunities. You might get a couple of wide open layups in transition, but for the most part, I think you'll see both teams give a more concerted effort to not giving up free points throughout the entire game, like we have seen in pretty much every regular season game this year.
Mhm.
Miami's going to try to slow it down, and I think you'll end up seeing this game turn into a bit more of a rock fight than people think.
Mhm.
But there's a couple ways to get there, because on one hand, the pace slows down and the game potentially dies. Or on the other hand, Miami wins because they shut down Trae Young, and I'm daring other guys in Atlanta to actually step up. And I'm not sure if they're going to. So I'm going to go with the under because, once again, I'm pretty sure every play-in game last year went under, including the loser of the 7-8 versus the winner of the 9-10. I believe that game went under as well in both conferences. You had a couple of totals in like the mid 230s, which ended up going under. But still, I think based on history, these playing games have been pretty low scoring. I'm going to go with the under.
Yeah, so before you go, Munaf, my bad.
No, you're good.
The Pelicans Clippers last year, 206, that went under. Hawks Cavs, 208, that went under. The only one that went over was the Hawks Hornets. That was 235.
Okay. And that one,
And that was a
I
game
forgot where that
where
landed, but Charlotte only scored like 100 points. They just gave
Yeah,
up
103.
140.
Yeah,
Yeah.
103.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so out of all the playing games, only one went over, correct?
Yeah, I think I guess it depends on what number
from
you
last
got.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on what number you got in the Spurs Pelicans game, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
I remember that one, I believe, went under because that total was like mid to high 230s, and I think it barely went under. I think.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you like Atlanta, like Delonte said, but I mean, last year the Hawks were in the play-in tournament, and I think they won both of their games. As I don't know if they were obviously they were 9th or 10th seed, but
Yeah, they were favored against Charlotte.
yeah, so they put up 132 against Charlotte, and then they won a 107-101 game against the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. So, um, I'll lean with the under as well. I think that Atlanta can attempt to play defense, but we'll see about that tonight. All right, let's get into some player props here for the game tonight. Delonte, lead us off. Player props. What do you like?
Yeah, man. Honestly, I think player props are probably the best way to bet the playoffs because I mean we all know NBA is going to have swings. In game and player props are probably the best way to profit, in my opinion, from the playoffs, especially to play in if you don't like these games or whatever. But I like Bam over points, rebounds, and assists. It is 32.5. He averaged 24.5, 9.5, and 4 in 4 games this year. So he's flying over that. That, if by my calculations, that would be 36 PRA per game in 4 games this year. Now, one of those games he did play without Jimmy, but the other 3 he pretty much dominated in. Also, I like Hero under 20.5 points. He struggled against Atlanta, only scored over 20 in 3 of his 13 career games against Atlanta. He's averaging 14.7 in the 4 matchups this year, so he's been struggling from deep as of late anyway. So I think some of the length of Atlanta bothers him. So I'll go under Hero. Capella over 10.5 rebounds. He has been dominant against the Heat. The Heat. He's had double figures in 4 of 7 games since he's been in Atlanta, averaging 11.4 rebounds per game. He's had a double-double in 5 of those 7. So those are the 3 I like the most.
Okay. Scott, player props.
I do want to point out one thing. It's not a prop I'm going to take, but I want to at least bring it up. I think Jimmy Butler is going to have a good game.
Yeah.
The problem is his triple-double price is 13-1 on DraftKings and 17-1 on FanDuel. Now, I get it's playoff Jimmy, and I get that he's had a couple of big games. How many triple-doubles did he have in the season? Like 1?
He had one, but there's like multiple games
He had
where he
multiple
just
games where he
felt
finished with
like,
like 9 and one
yeah.
stat or
Mhm.
something.
And I
But
think one of those games was against the Atlanta Hawks, I think.
I'm just saying though, like 17-1 for a guy that had one triple double in the entire season, I think is a ridiculous price. Like I think that's an insane price. I do think Butler's gonna have a good game. I think I'd probably lean more to points than anything else. I'm not sure he's gonna get the assists. I think that's kind of the problem Butler might run into. I maybe wouldn't mind Jimmy rebounds, but I wanted to bring it up because I'm sure a lot of people want to make a case for Jimmy triple double, where he has himself a 25 and 12 and 10 type game. Do you think 17-1 is actually decent odds? Because based on how he's done in the regular season, that number sounds offensive, and it should be closer to like 30-1 if we're
Yeah, I
going
think it
based on
should.
actual probability.
Yeah, probably about 25 to 30.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. So Butler, I
trying to
thought
build
maybe
what I'm trying to
I
build
thought
one and see.
yeah, I thought maybe he'd have a shot at one, but based on the odds alone, I'd recommend not taking Butler triple double because simply put, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But to go through any player props that I actually do like, I have to at least bring up the fact that Trey has really not shot the ball well for the last couple of weeks. His point total is 24.5, which does sound a bit low for a guy that's going to have a lot of volume. I think I'm going to lean under anyway, just because of how underwhelming Trey has been with his shot and the fact that Miami historically has given him serious problems. But to go through the actual numbers here for Trey over the last couple of games here. So he had a 27-20 game against Philly, but Philly, I don't think Philly didn't actually care in that game. That's why Atlanta was favored and they still lost the game. But I'm going to toss that one out because Philly didn't use any actual like quality players in that game. They played Washington. He had 25 and 16. Washington hasn't exactly been doing much for a while. They played Dallas. He had 24 and 12. But before that, he had 10 points against Brooklyn, a Brooklyn team that was actually trying and that's pretty good at defense. Had 16 points against the Cavs. He had 28 points against Memphis. Okay. Had 14 points against Indiana. The point is, I just think that Trey's offense, especially his shooting, has really let him down for the last couple of weeks, at least against teams that are competing for something. Once again, he faced off against a G League squad in Philly and another bad team in Washington that's not playing for anything, so I'm not going to overreact to that. But based on how well Miami's defended Trey, I am tempted by the under with his points, and I'm hoping he doesn't go to the line 10 times.
Okay. I was just building out some same game parlays with Jimmy Butler as a triple double. And so on DraftKings, you could get it at 25-1 with 25 or more points.
Does that
And then
add in the first quarter, like 2+ rebounds, 2+ assists, or no? You can
no,
occasionally add that and get a couple extra.
I just built the triple double for the full game. 25-1 at DraftKings and then 28-1 on FanDuel. And then if you just want to bring the assists down, I think that's the one we're concerned about. If you bring it to 8 assists, you get 11, close to 1150 plus 1150 on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings it comes down to around 12-1.
Yeah, unfortunately, DraftKings does not have first quarter rebounds and assists posted because you can occasionally add those to get a couple extra. Because if he's going to get there, he's probably going to have like 3 and 3 in the first quarter.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
If you want to get some extra, you maybe could push it hopefully to 28-1, 30-1. Maybe that I'd consider. Maybe. But I'm not taking any of the de facto prices available for triple-double because you just prove you can get a much better number. And 2, the prices alone for that triple-double market are not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. The player props that I was looking at, Sadiq Bey over 1.5 3-point shots made here for the Atlanta Hawks. He's had pretty good success against this Miami Heat team shooting the 3 ball. The 2 games that he's played with Atlanta against Miami, he's been he's shot 3 of 5 and then 4 of 8. And then his days with Detroit, there's 2 games where he didn't get there. Where he was only 1 of 3 and 1 of 9. But prior to that, 4 of 8, 3 of 6, 3 of 10, 4 of 15. And that's at even money right now over on DraftKings, over 1.5 threes for Sadiq Bey. Like I mentioned, that the Heat allowed the 3rd most 3-point makes this season. And that was down there, I think, with like the Rockets, and I think the Spurs were the other team, if I'm not mistaken. And the other one I was gonna dig a little more into was John Collins, points over 11 and a half. Another player that's had pretty good success against the Heat, as far as scoring the basketball, kind of just going through his numbers. In 19 career games against the Miami Heat, he's averaging 16.3 points. Just to kind of read off what he's done over his last several games. This goes back to 2021. So 34, 17, 20, 16, 16, 15, 23, 14. Had a game where he only played 16 minutes and scored 3 points. But in the last game on March 6th, in 20 minutes, he scored 17 points. So maybe looking at that as far as player props in this game. Anything else for this game, guys, that you want to get off your chest here? I know guys are chiming in with some plays in the chat. KW franchise agreeing about Trae Young points under 24 and a half. I think that was about it. Anything else for this game?
Yeah, I like his assists over Trae. He's over 9.5 and 5 of the last 7, and you get plus money on it. It's plus 150. I see it plus 115, 117, 120. So if you shop around, you can get some nice plus odds on that. And if the game script plays how it has been since Trae's been playing against the team, he's going to be more off the ball, going to put the ball more in DeJounte Murray's hands, which is why you probably want to pivot to his points and not Trae's, because how much success that they've had shutting down Trae. So I think that he'll be more of a distributor rather than a scorer. So I like the assist a lot.
I was looking at last one before we move on here. Bam blocks and steals combined 1.5 is at minus 160. But if you're able to find, if you're able to find a 2.5, you kind of just go through his game log. He's been crushing
in general or against Atlanta in particular?
Against Atlanta.
Okay.
3 steals, 1 block, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 1 block, 2 steals, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 steals, 1 block, 0-0. But then he had games of 3 blocks, 3 steals, 1 block. So he's been getting over this number consistently, almost. I think I want to say about 90%. I'm gonna kind of go through it for his entire career and tweet it out or drop it in the Discord. Let me write that down before I forget. But
if you want to ignore the steals, by the way, you can get him to record a block at minus 150. He's had at least 1 block in 4 straight against Atlanta in the regular season. He's had at least 1 block in 6 of the last 7 against Atlanta. So if you want to ignore the steals, or maybe the book that you have doesn't give you a combo defensive prop, you can just take blocks alone at minus 150.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, he's the only rim protection that they have, and with the length that the Hawks have, he's gonna have to block some shots. That's why I like his PRA, because he's gonna have to do it all on the glass. He probably could go for 11 plus rebounds.
Yeah. All right.
Do you have any thoughts on Kevin Love's role in this game? Because I saw his point totals at like 7.5. How long is he even supposed to play in this game?
Yeah, that's the only question, right? Like, how many minutes is he actually going to get in this game? That's all.
So Bogdanovic's number was also pretty low, but he's missed the last couple games.
I like Bogdanovic, but it was too juiced when I seen it. I think it was like 125 when I seen it.
For his points?
Yeah. This was last night though.
I was looking at his
what number do you remember from last night?
I think it was 12.5, if I'm not mistaken.
I see 11.5. The over is 120.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I like it. He's gonna have to hit some threes. I mean, I haven't seen his recent success against the Heat, but I would imagine. But his role's kind of diminished since Sadiq's been there. Sadiq's been playing more of the small ball 4. Him and Collins both have been, kind of out of some minutes. But I'll be interested to see how Snyder plays it.
I also realized, Delonte, for the jokes, are we taking Kyle Lowry under 7.5 points at even money?
Yeah, I thought that's a system play, like Real says.
I don't even know how many minutes Lowry's going to play, because he's been banged up for the entire year, and we said he was questionable before, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many minutes is he going to play? They're better off without him. We've said this several times.
They are. Yeah. Strus and Vincent are better.
I want to look at the game log here for Lowry, not even just against Atlanta, just in general, to see his points. Had 0 points last game. Had 11 against Philly. Had 11 against Detroit. 6 against Dallas. 6 against Toronto. 3 against Brooklyn. Yeah, I think I got to be on the under 7.5 for Lowry because I just don't think he's gonna have much of a role on this team.
I think the only one that I would look at for Kyle Lowry is probably steals.
You're talking about an over for.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to bet an over for Kyle Lowry, I think the only thing I'll look at is steals. It is minus 135 for him to get one, but he's done it against his Hawks team. But again, it's just kind of going to come down to how many minutes he's actually going to play.
Yeah.
I just don't know how many shot attempts he's going to take. Like, there's a chance that Lowry maybe makes 75% of his shots, but he only attempts 4 shots in the entire game, and he finishes 3 for 4 with 6 points. Like, I don't think there's enough volume for Lowry, and he's questionable, so he really might not have much of a role anyway. I think I am going to lean to Lowry under 7.5 at even money.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue against it. All right, guys. Before we get to the second game of the night, let me tell everyone about what am I telling you about? Sword Vitality. Self-care is cool. Self-care is manly. Be proud of taking care of yourself. 40% of men are affected by impotence at the age of 40, and nearly 70% of men are affected at age 70. Stop buying highly suspect pills in gas stations. No more hiding that little blue pill in your sock drawer. You manscape, but do you also take care of the plumbing? Sword Vitality helps increase your blood flow in ways that help you thrive as a man. It's time to become a Sword Vitality man if you aren't experiencing erections in the morning. Talking about Sword Vitality should be as comfortable as anything else men talk about with their partners. You hike, you love watching football, you use Sword Vitality. There's really 3 main benefits when you use Sword Vitality. It increases blood flow in ways that help you thrive as a man in the bedroom. Sword Vitality can help increase your stamina. You don't have to hide it. You can be proud of it. Unsheath your sword. Visit swordvitality.com and use promo code SGPN for a nice discount at checkout. That's swordvitality.com, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Talkify. Life is full of what ifs. So, what if you try something new when it comes to dating? Talkify is a new way to meet other serious singles. What if they help you find what you're looking for? Are you having a hard time meeting great people to date? Why do you always keep trying the same methods over and over if you know you're setting yourself up to fail? It's time to say goodbye to swiping and bring back human touch to dating with Talkify. Confidence is always a key when it comes to dating, but if you've struggled to find worthwhile connections, it can be difficult to feel your best when meeting new people. With Talkify, you feel confident that you're meeting someone special who was handpicked just for you. Talkify is the country's #1 modern matchmaking service that is designed to help you achieve relationship success. Their trusted compatibility specialists hand select successful and compelling candidates so you can date consciously and productively. Here's how it works. The Talkify matchmakers meet with you to learn about what you're looking for in a partner. Then they'll select and screen potential candidates for you, doing background checks, video interviews, and asking all those tough questions that are sometimes too awkward to talk about on those first dates. From there, your matchmaker plans your date, introductions, and handles all the communication for you so you don't have to worry about all of that. They create a safe and stress-free dating experience. Talkify is committed to finding your match. 80% of clients met their person within the first 12 matches. And right now, Talkify is offering our listeners 20% off when you become a client at Talkify.com/SGPN. That's TAWKIFY.com/SGPN for 20% off when you become a client. That's Talkify.com/SGPN. All right, guys, let's get over to the last game or the second game of the night. That's going to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are visiting the LA Lakers in the 7-8 matchup in the Western Conference to determine who will be the 7th seed. Currently, this line is all the way up to 8.5 for the LA Lakers at home here. Total is now up to 232.5. Looking at the injury report, everybody is pretty much a go for the LA Lakers. For the Minnesota Timberwolves is where it gets obviously interesting. So we know that Rudy Gobert is suspended for this game by the Minnesota Timberwolves. He will not be playing in this game. Jaden McDaniels, we know, broke or fractured his right hand because he was frustrated. Naz Reid continues to be out. Carl Anthony Towns is officially listed as questionable on the injury report. And then Jalen Noel is also questionable on the injury report. We talked about Luka Garza yesterday, but he is going to be out for this game. He is on
Garzilla? Wow.
Luke Garza, yeah. He is he is on a G League contract, on a two-way contract. He's officially out. Guys, let's start with the spread here. Scott, lead us off on the side here. -8.5 in favor of the LA Lakers hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves.
So everyone's going to take the Lakers because Minnesota's got no players left besides besides Kyle Anderson and of course Anthony Edwards. But you're looking at the problem I have with the Lakers. It's the fact that we saw them end up winning the games they needed to down the stretch, and we saw LeBron crown himself the king after they let the G League Utah Jazz hang around for about 56 minutes. Like, I didn't think they looked that impressive in the game. And of course, LeBron finished with like 36. But the point is, they have let some teams hang around longer than they should. So that does concern me a little bit. But again, it's also a playoff game. So you're expecting LeBron and AD and everyone to bring it because they have a lot of experience in the playoffs. Minnesota's team has some experience from last year, but not much because they ended up losing in 6 to Memphis in a series they probably should have won in 5. That's how bad they were down the stretch in those games. But do I think 8.5 is too many points? Because a part of me feels like Minnesota's punting this, doesn't it? Like, Cat's listed as questionable. They're suspending Gobert for a game. Doesn't it feel like they're kind of just looking at this game saying, we'll get the next one? Isn't it like a weird type of approach? It's how it looks, doesn't it?
I don't know if they want to. Oh no, go ahead, Munaf. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if they want to play either New Orleans or OKC.
I'm not sure they do either, but I'm just throwing it out there. Like, Minnesota's handling this game like they really don't want to be the 7.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I don't know.
I think it's a little weird. I think I'll go contrarian here. I think I'll lean Timberwolves because I just think 8.5 is too many points. And I'm still not sold on the Lakers defensively. They've been better lately, but we'll see what happens. But the concern that I have is going to be the free throw shooting and the points in the paint. Because without Gobert and without Reed, and you mentioned Garza, I know we're half joking, but how many centers do they actually have on their team now?
0.0.
Like, I'm trying to think. Towns, I guess, but he's questionable, so he might play. But once again, you don't even know how effective he's going to be. It's really not a great spot for Minnesota because, in addition to missing all your centers, basically, you're against a Lakers team that is number 1 in free throw attempts by a wide margin. Do I think the Lakers could kill them? Yeah, they could. But I feel like Minnesota is going to hang around a bit in this game. I think the Lakers win. I'm not picking Minnesota to pull off the upset. I'm not crazy. But I think that the Lakers could win this game by like 5 or 6. I think it'll be close. But I'm going to lean Lakers. I am going to lean to the under. I'm going to stick with the unders, which have been effective and profitable in these play-in games. This number at 232.5 feels a little bit high to me. I think a lot of it's inflated because of the Lakers' pace in the regular season. It's the playoffs. It's going to slow down. I think LeBron's going to be more methodical. My favorite play is the under in this game because there's a couple ways to get there if Minnesota just doesn't show up offensively. But I'm going to lean under, and I'll hold my nose and lean Minnesota. It's mostly just fading the public. The public's all over the Lakers, and I'm not afraid to take a stand.
Yeah, I mean, this almost feels like it's going to be like a 5, 6, 7 point victory for the LA Lakers. I mean,
they'll be up by double digits. They'll let Minnesota go on a run to cut it to 5, and they'll win the game. Like, I feel like I've seen this movie before.
I think it's going to be something similar to what we saw against Utah in their last game of the regular season for the Lakers. They typically don't win by margin, and I think the one thing that could concern me or does concern me is that you talked about the lack of centers that the Minnesota Timberwolves have, that if Karl Anthony Towns does get into foul trouble trying to guard Anthony Davis, then it's just going to be easy buckets for the LA Lakers all night.
I gotta look
Also,
this up though. I gotta see what centers they actually even have at this point. Because since you mentioned Garza not being there, he was their backup or backup for part of the season. So
yeah.
are they basically down to a fifth string center? Because it
I
kind of
mean,
feels that way.
like who's on the bench? I don't even know.
That's
I
the
mean,
point. I gotta check. I gotta actually check this.
yeah. I
I
mean,
got it up. I got it up right now. Let me see if I can. I
Just
don't think
who's
they
the
have one. They
current
don't have one,
backups?
bro. They
They
don't
just
have
don't
one.
have one.
Yeah,
they don't
because
have one.
I'll
Yeah,
read you. I'll read you their bench. So
it
they
was
have Wendell
Nasri.
Moore. He's a I guess a combo guard. They have Josh Minna. He's a forward. I guess he's the
Yeah,
backup
he's
center.
6'8", so
Yeah.
that, I don't
So
know if
they
that
got
counts.
him. They got Matt Ryan, who's
Okay.
obviously not. Jordan McLaughlin, who is not. They have Nathan Knight, who's a forward slash center. He is 6'8", so
Okay.
undersized center. Nikhil Alexander Walker, Austin Rivers,
Yeah.
Torian
Okay.
Prince. That's it.
So they
That's
got
literally
nobody. Okay.
yeah, nobody.
That does hurt,
Yeah.
and it kind of goes against what I just said for the Timberwolves covering, but who knows? Maybe going small helps them. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean,
According to
yeah,
Ed,
like
89% of the money's on the Lakers, by the way.
yeah, then that's the one thing that does concern me, right? So I think that's like the only reason, like you mentioned, Scott, just fading the public. Let's take the T-Wolves plus the 8.5. I obviously do think the Lakers will win the game, but I mean, like you mentioned, Scott, should be a 5, 6, 7 point victory for the Lakers.
They don't care about how much money. They don't care.
Yeah, it's
how
just
much they
win
win
and you
by.
advance,
Just
right?
win the game.
Yeah,
So
and that's just what it is. So I'm on the I'm on the T-Wolves here as well at the plus 8.5. Delonte, what are you thinking for this game?
Listen, man, I think the Wolves can win this game. I really do.
nobody believes in us.
That too. But
Yeah.
the thing is, so they have to do a few things to win. Okay, so even with Gobert, AD dominated. He had 38 points in the game. Like they're not gonna have an answer for him. He
On the
had
bright
38
side,
with
AD
Gobert.
dominates Gobert every time they play. So
Right,
Gobert not
so
being in the lineup's actually not that terrible.
right. So the thing is, they have to protect the ball. They're 27th in turnover percentage offense. The good thing about that is the Lakers are 29th in turnover percentage defense, so they're not going to force turnover. So if they can limit the basically like the throwaways and the travels and they do a lot of it's mostly Gobert, but like in the screen game, they get a lot of offensive fouls off of screens. So if they can limit that along with keeping Cat out of foul trouble, they have to keep him out of foul trouble because once he goes out, I don't know what they're gonna do. And even with Gobert, so basically the offensive rating is like 5 points higher without Gobert on the floor. So it's 113.8 when he's on the floor, 118.1 when he's off the floor. And I know people are talking about his defense. Well, the defensive rating is somewhat the same with and without him. So that's not much of a difference, especially in this matchup when we just went over Anthony Edwards pretty much owns him. I mean, Anthony Davis pretty much owns him. So you're not going to be able to stop AD with or without Gobert. My thing is, I think that Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley can control the game. So they're comfortable playing at a slower pace, but they're going to have to want to push the tempo to get these guys running. And I mean, I'm going to have to do an up and down game. Torian Prince and Kyle Anderson are going to have to play probably the game of their lives if they want to pull this off. So I trust Kyle Anderson. I'm not sure about Torian Prince. He's kind of up and down, but
is the game in MSG?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I was gonna say if it was at MSG, maybe he'd go like 8 for 8 from 3.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, I don't think so.
And then the other thing that they have to do is they got to keep the Lakers off the free throw line. Lakers second in free throw rate offense. Minnesota fouls a lot. 29th free throw rate defense. So they got to keep them off the line. I mean, LeBron and AD, they're gonna get theirs. It's just the other guys. You can't let Austin Reeves have 20 plus. You can't have Russell go for 20 plus. You just gotta limit some of those other guys. So I think that they can do that. I think that Finch can. He's gonna have something constructed to where these guys are in good position to be able to win this game in the end. So I'm gonna bet Minnesota plus 8.5 and sprinkle on the money line. I'm expecting Anthony Edwards to have 30 to 35 points. He struggled the last 2 games against the Lakers. He had 11 and 19 on 11 of 32 shooting. So he has to be due for a big game. He has to play well. If he doesn't have 30 plus, they're gonna probably lose by 10 plus. So give me the Minnesota, and I'm gonna sprinkle on the money line for it.
I don't know how to feel that you said Minnesota should play faster with Mike Conley controlling the pace. I don't know how to feel about that one, but I don't think you're
I mean, my
wrong.
thing is like, yeah, that's true. I mean, but you got to think like they have to, because if they just sit there and play half court, that's playing into the
Oh no,
Lakers'
you're not
advantage.
wrong. It's just the fact that an older Mike Conley is going to have to try to play up tempo. I think that's a little bit of an oxymoron, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, man. So
Let's get over to the total, guys. That number, I know Scott, you already mentioned under 232.5. Delonte, what do you feel about the total?
yeah, I love the under. I think it's way too high. I think it should be mid 220s. Both teams have been playing really good defensively, top 10 defensive rating over the past month. And I mean, even without, like I said, I read off the numbers without Gobert. People think it's going to be a drastic drop off. I don't think it is. We've seen them play better defensively whenever Anthony Edwards switched on to Brandon Ingram. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but like Edwards is like a really good defender, but he just doesn't try a lot.
Yeah.
He probably preserves a lot of his energy for offense. But when he was on Brandon Ingram, he pretty much limited Brandon Ingram to what he was doing. Brandon Ingram was doing whatever he wanted on Kyle Anderson, Torian Prince. But when Anthony Edwards got on him, he forced a few turnovers, made him take some bad shots. So I'll be interested to see if Finch, puts him on maybe a LeBron or whoever. But I think both teams struggle offensively. I think it's going to be a rock fight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's borderline like 105, 104 type game.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm the under here as well. I think this number continues to keep climbing throughout the day and maybe get a better number closer to game time. Again, like we mentioned, that all the money's really coming in on the Lakers from the public and on the over here, obviously, as well. And I think that, Scott alluded to it earlier in the podcast or in the episode, that traditionally we've seen these play-in tournaments go under the total. So especially when it gets to that fourth quarter where I think it really turns into a rock fight, that the pace really, really does slow down. And then, we'll see the defensive intensity up for both of these teams. So yeah, under 232.5. I want to keep waiting and see if this number keeps climbing and come in and get a better number on the under. Let's get into some player props here. Delonte, lead us off. Any player props that you do like in this game?
Yeah, man, I got a couple. I like Cat over 2.5 threes at plus money. You can get plus 115, plus 117. I like Conley over 14.5. To my point, as far as the pace, they got to be able to push it a little bit more. So he's gonna have to score a decent amount. I think he's over in 5 of the last 7 games, or 5 of the last 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. LeBron over 15.5 rebounds and assists. I think he'll be more facilitator to start, and then when they need him to score, he'll score. But I think he'll have double-digit rebounds and assists in this game. So I also would sprinkle on his triple-double. I forgot what the number is. I'll look that up while you and Scott give out.
For who? LeBron?
LeBron, yeah.
It's around like 8.5 to 1, 9 to 1.
Yeah, play a little bit of piece of money on that.
Okay. Scott, player props.
So I agree with the LeBron triple-double angle. My only concern would be rebounds when you're going to be using, assists you can argue he might not get there, but I'm assuming he'll have the ball in his hands all the time, so he might get there. It's the rebounds, because you still have Davis, you still have Vanderbilt, you have a couple of good rebounding bigs there, so maybe LeBron doesn't fully focus on rebounding. But I think there's value on the triple-double, just based on the fact that Minnesota really doesn't have anyone who can guard him at the moment, because McDaniels was their best perimeter defender, and now he's out. So I think LeBron's got value there. I'm pretty high on Kyle Anderson in this game. I'm not saying that him and LeBron are both going to get triple doubles, but I do think that he's going to be in line for a pretty big role in this game because McDaniels is out. And when you're looking at what Minnesota's supposed to do offensively, they're going to need Anderson to play 40 minutes. Like, they don't have enough small forward depth to not let Anderson, who's one of their best players, not play a bunch of minutes. So the workload should be there for him. I see Anderson triple-double at like 15 to 1. I'm trying to see if I could find a better price if I just plug it into the actual same-game parlay calculator and do it that way. So just give me a second. I'm going to see if I could find it. But the point is, I think there might be value on Anderson to have a big game too. We've seen him be a good facilitator. We've seen him be a pretty good rebounder. And now with them having no centers, I think Anderson rebounds is probably worth a look. That's probably my favorite prop for him. I like Kyle Anderson rebounds.
Yeah, I was looking at some type of defensive stats for Kyle Anderson as well. I'm sure his blocks are going to be 1.5.
I found Anderson triple-double at 25-1 in the same game parlay calculator for
Yeah.
DraftKings. That I don't necessarily mind. For a guy who, once again, should play 40 minutes and he really does not have much competition for a role because McDaniels is out now, so Anderson's going to have to play a bunch of minutes. 25-1 for a team that has no center. I think Anderson should get the rebounds, so I
Yep.
don't mind potentially just taking a player prop on rebounds only for Anderson.
I like his assist a lot too.
That's what I'm saying. So I think triple-double makes
rebounds and
sense,
assists.
25-1.
Yeah. I would sprinkle on that and then just take his assist and rebounds to go over.
Yeah, that's a good call. What do you think about his scoring? Like, I think he's gonna be I think he's gonna be locked in defensively. So I'm not sure how much he'll even look to score. That's what I'm really worried about.
If you take out the points on DraftKings and you keep the 10 plus assists and 10 plus rebounds, it's still 19-1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that. Yeah, I would look at rebounds and assists are at 13.5 here tonight for Colin. Minus 125 on that. All right, what else, guys? Anything? Any other player props you guys like in this game?
Nope.
Well, I plugged in the Anderson triple-double into
okay.
FanDuel. I found 30-1. You take the points out, it's 24-1.
What is Anthony Edwards 35 plus?
Okay. Edwards, you want that mixed in with a parlay with
No,
Anderson,
just straight.
Okay.
Just straight.
So Edwards 35 plus points is, I see 370 on FanDuel.
I was hoping to get like
DraftKings has about 360.
That's kind of short.
It is. I think that should be closer to like 4.5 or 5.
Yeah, I can't take that.
Gilbert asking, what do we think about Anthony
Edwards or Davis?
It's a good question.
Yeah, Gilbert, you got to clarify which Anthony you're talking.
Well, I mean,
about.
I think AD is going to.
I'm assuming he means Ant, if I had to guess. But
yeah, I mean, either way, like Anthony Davis should have a monster game. If he doesn't have 28 and 15.
Yeah, I was looking at his rebounds at 13.5. It's a big number.
Kyle Anderson does do a good job of boxing out, like fundamentals, like boxing out and keeping guys off the glass. So
he had 9 rebounds in 37 minutes against New Orleans last game.
And he was focal in stopping Valanciunas, because Valanciunas was doing whatever he wanted on Gobert, like whatever he wanted.
He was talking about Anthony Edwards. What's his points prop?
I think it's 27.5.
It's like 27.5, 28.5, give or take. I see 27.5 at minus 115 on the over.
They bumped it up. It's usually like 24, 20, 23.5, 24.
Well, the argument's volume, because they're expecting him to chuck the ball 25 times.
And he hasn't had success against the Lakers.
Yeah.
So if he's locked in, man, he's got to score 35 plus for them to win, and that's what I'm banking on.
All right, guys, let's get into our lock and dog for tonight. Scott, why don't you lead us off, man? Lock and dog for tonight.
All right, I just want to quickly shop around to make sure I have the best odds available, but I think I am actually going to go back to Kyle Anderson. You mentioned the rebounds plus assists at like 13.5, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the over as my lock there. Anderson's going to have to embrace a bigger role, either with the ball in his hands or even just on the glass, because they have no centers, or they have Towns who might be compromised. It's also a matter of the fact that he was the one who indirectly caused Gobert to get suspended. Maybe he, takes a little extra responsibility. There's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to prove something that he's ready to go for this game. Once again, I'm kind of grasping at a couple of straws, maybe thinking about some extra motivation, or maybe Anderson's going to make sure that he does whatever he can to potentially avoid people blaming him for the reason why they might lose this game. I think Anderson rebounds and assists definitely is worth a look, and I'm going to take it as my lock. Looking at the price, the best price available right now is minus 125. I'm going to take the over. I just think for a guy who should play 37 plus minutes, maybe 40 plus minutes, and for a guy that we know can get double-doubles with either assists or rebounds, I think he might get a triple-double. So if you're going to give me 13.5 for rebounds and assists, and he might get you 11 rebounds or even maybe 10 assists. I'm going to take the over. So give me Kyle Anderson, rebounds and assists over 13.5 at -125 as my lock.
And your dog?
For my dog, I'm going to go back to the jokes. Give me Kyle Lowry under 7.5 points at even money, just because I'm going to have a hell of a time rooting for it. But no, in reality, Lowry's banged up. We've mentioned several times the Heat are better without him. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. It was a meaningless game against Orlando in the final game of the season, and he only played 10 minutes. He attempted one shot in the entire game, and he missed it. It was the game didn't matter, but the point is, even if Lowry plays 20 minutes, I don't know how many shots he's actually going to take in this game. So if Lowry only attempts 3 or 4 shots, there's still a very good chance he goes under. And they still got Strus, they still have Vincent, they got Hero. Butler might play point guard for a couple of minutes in this game. Give me Kyle Lowry under 7.5 points at even money as my dog.
Okay. Delonte, what do you got?
All right, man. For my locks, they're all like underdogs for the most part. So I'm gonna try to get with a total. I think it's the first time I ever gave out a total as a lock. I'm gonna go under the 232. Was it 232.5? And the Lakers in Minnesota.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So give me under that. We literally just went over it, so I'm just not gonna regurgitate that. As for the dog, I'm gonna go with Minnesota. I put my money where my mouth is. Sprinkle on the money line. Let's see what the best money line I can get is.
Should probably wait till game time because it's probably going to go up. But yes,
you can get like 310, 315-ish. Just shop around. I see 310, 312.
If anyone gets afraid, they could always just take an alternative spread and get like +4, +5 if you're afraid to take the money line.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that too. So, yeah, I like Minnesota a lot tonight, man.
All right. For my lock, I am gonna go with the Wolves at +8.5. I think that Lakers do win the game, but I don't think it's gonna be by margin. I think in the realm of like 4 to 6 points to get this victory here tonight. For my dog, I was trying to put together Sadiq Bey, 2 or more threes, and then Bam over 1.5 blocks and steals, but it's not letting me do it because they don't have. Well, you know what? Let me see if FanDuel lets me do it. But regardless, I think that Sadiq Bey over 1.5 threes, that's at even money. I do like that. For tonight, we talked about it, how he's had that success against the Miami Heat, knocking down those 3-point shots. And also how Miami Heat's 3-point defense was the third worst as far as makes allowed per game this season. So I think Sadiq Bey should be able to get the attempts and the looks, obviously, here tonight. Yeah, I can't put that parlay together, so maybe I'll tweet it out if I'm able to find it. But Sadiq Bey over 1.5 3-point shots made here tonight as my official dog. And then if you want to tag on Bam's over 1.5 blocks and steals combined to that, I think that he definitely gets at least 3 here tonight in some form or fashion of blocks and steals combined. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. We have the 7-8 matchups in both of the conference tonight. We'll find out who will play the Memphis Grizzlies and who will play Boston in the Eastern Conference. So definitely looking forward to the action here tonight. Scott, anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here?
No, not really. I did notice that FanDuel added a certain specific type of prop that I'm sure a bunch of people chase during the playoffs. They have the largest comeback in all these games.
Mm-hmm.
So you can basically get a team to trail by X amount of points and then win the game. Any thoughts on the Lakers to trail by 10 plus and win the game at 4-1? It's the NBA. We see teams go on runs back and forth. Like 4-1's not bad.
Minnesota's a good first quarter team too.
Saying, Minnesota,
they're the best in the league, I think.
Yeah, they are. They're
going to come out a bit smaller because Gobert's not around. Maybe they hit a couple threes. They go up 12-2. Lakers win the game. Plus 400. Like I don't mind that. I feel like that prop might make people some money during the playoffs.
Only thing is, man, I think the Lakers sleepwalk through this game. I really do.
Yeah, but I'm saying even if
Right.
they do, Munaf and I, unlike you, still think they're going to win the game. So I can afford if they sleepwalk for a half. That's actually good for me if they do that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
4-1 though, I don't mind that.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
that's not a bad look. Dante, anything else?
Nah, man, I got 2 SGP articles, same game parlay articles coming out. Got one today, one tomorrow for the play-in. So that'll be up around this afternoon, I think, maybe around like 2-ish. So
So
just
you
be
have
looking out for
2
those.
SGPN SGP articles.
There we go.
Okay,
There
cool.
we go. Yeah, so I got 2 of those coming. So probably gonna be like 10 of my favorite player props just cropped from each game. So looking forward to putting that out, and good luck to everybody. Best of luck.
Yep. We'll be back tomorrow with Scott and Terrell to handicap the 9-10 matchups. So looking forward to that at the usual time for the NBA pod. Make sure to follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. Follow Delonte on Twitter at XXLanteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Don't forget to enter the contest on the SGPN app. It's an NBA Playoff Survivor Challenge. Winner gets $250 in cash and a $100 SGPN gift card. It's completely free to enter, but it's only on the SGPN app. So make sure to get in there, guys. If you haven't already left us a rating and review, now would be a great time. We wrapped up the season. Whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, wherever you may listen to us, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review. And last but not least, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are ever so close to getting 1,000 subscribers. So hopefully we can get that done by the end of the playoffs for our YouTube channel. All right. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.